So, what exactly do women in Sweden truly seek in a man? Which specific qualities do Swedish girls most value in a partner? So, as a Swedish girl, what do you really find appealing in a man?
It's difficult.
How does one go about winning over a Scandinavian woman? How do the girls in Denmark like to be treated by men here? So, what do you like and what is it that you hate?
Well, they are quite boring, I agree. And speaking for myself, I've actually never dated a Danish man.
If you're that guy who can't get a date in your own neighborhood, who lives by himself, with a hand so calloused it looks like he works in construction, and you think you're gonna become Thor and get all the girls just because you bought a cheap ticket to Europe? Hold on there, Casanova. You can go ahead and lower that hammer from your pants. Do some grown men really think just arriving in Stockholm unlocks Nordic womanizer mode? Oh, so now I'm just going to go conquer a drunken Nordic blonde as she's leaving the bar. Sure, champ. I'll become NASA's CEO because I built a rocket with a toilet paper roll. So come on over, settle onto daddy's lap and hear this before you make yourself an international embarrassment. Because they are the ones who come up to you. All of a sudden, you're at a party, clutching a $12 beer, and a Swedish woman just walks up and asks your name as if it's the most perfectly normal thing imaginable. And there you stand, trying desperately not to fall head over heels, all because a stunning blonde merely uttered a simple hello in your direction. You start breaking into a cold sweat, and that's when the penny drops. In Sweden, the dating game works in reverse. I've analyzed dozens of interviews with women from that particular region. And when I got to Scandinavia, I discovered the one thing that shatters 90% of male fantasies. They truly don't desire the stereotypical macho provider type, nor do they seek the charming, handsome seducer. They certainly don't want the flashy guy, who's like a walking shoppy billboard. You then ask yourself, what the hell do they actually want? Easy there, nervous little hand. Got you curious, huh? But listen, they're super demanding, you know? And that's exactly what I'm going to show you now. What these blondes demand. Well, the primary brutal truth regarding Swedish women is quite simple. They're direct, even with their list of requirements. There's none of that wishy-washy, oh, I don't really have a type. None of that. You ask, they'll give you a straight answer. And the most repeated answer, height. Yes, height. I know it pains me. I felt that pain right here in my Brazilian heart, being 5 foot something myself. But picture this. You arrive in Stockholm. 4 different interviews, 4 identical answers. I like a tall guy. I like a guy who's taller than me. What's the minimum height? He was 5 feet 11 inches and the girl was 5 feet 10 inches tall. Buddy, in Scandinavia, you're up against more than just skill. It's premium Nordic genetics. There, a height of 5'9" is thought of as cute. 5'7" suddenly becomes the fun-sized addition. But calm down, breathe. They cut you some slack. Height helps, but it's not everything. Then comes the second shot to your self-esteem. The eyes. Yes, the eyes. Not about style. It's firm, calm, confident eye contact. No desperate gazes like, for the love of God, talk to me, or I'll perish alone. And no blank serial killer stares that make it seem like you're robbing their very soul. Swedish women like eyes that say, I'm a functional adult, not one in an existential crisis. The third pillar of the Scandinavian triad, style and hygiene. And you might think, oh, anyone can have style. But really, my dear friend, do you truly believe that? In Sweden, even the guy just buying bread at the market looks like a casual Calvin Klein model. Clean clothes, simple cuts, neutral colors, nothing over the top. And hygiene? It's about smelling pleasant without seeming doused in cologne, with tidy hair, a well-kept beard, or none at all. Yet every detail is intentional. A Swedish woman eyes you as if checking off a list. Good attire? Smell good? Nails okay? Hair doesn't look like a pigeon's nest? You pass. You know what the funny part is? None of this has to do with being rich, showing off, or displaying power. It is almost the inverse. They prefer a style that's discreet, tidy, and practical. Like, I know how to live my life. I don't need to prove anything. Therefore, when someone inquires, what exactly does a Swedish woman consider attractive? The response is straightforward, clear-cut, almost formulaic. Height helps, eyes confirm, style closes the deal. And if you're not 6 feet tall, relax, my friend. They said it themselves. It's not mandatory, but does it help? It helps. It's like gaming without cheats. You'll clear the level, but it's more exhausting. They hunt. Now comes the part that makes every Latin guy freeze up like an old man taking a little blue pill. In Sweden, women approach you too. Yes, you heard that right. It's not a myth. It's not a fantasy. It's not a motivational video from some frustrated coach. It's real life in that Nordic blonde kingdom, riding bikes and holding degrees in brutal honesty. And this is precisely where a good half of the world's men experience culture shock. Because we grew up in a place where, if a woman takes the initiative, you automatically activate 3 defense modes. Is it a scam? A hidden camera show? She probably wants me to join a cult, right? In Sweden, none of that. Over there, it's just another ordinary day. Women initiate talks, ask your name, compliment, and ask you out. It's not "hey stranger," it's genuine, clear interest. No hidden agendas, no emotional games, no "we'll see." And ironically, you know what they say when you ask them why? Because they can. Simple as that. And this is where it gets emotional. They feel comfortable approaching guys because the environment allows it. Because they aren't being harassed, stalked, tested, judged, or evaluated for every inch of skin they show. Because they can walk down the street without fear. Because they trust the place where they live. In a country where women are respected, is she afraid to make the first move? Exactly. Just picture my reaction, an average Brazilian, when a Swedish woman approaches. You immediately imagine you're starring in your very own Nordic rendition of How I Met Your Mother. But in their world, it's normal. They strike up conversations, stop you on the street, chat at a bar, ask about your life. And if they're not interested, they'll turn you down with the same honesty. No drama, no awkwardness. No 14-paragraph Instagram post saying, "I'm not in the right headspace for a relationship right now." It's all very practical. Her freedom exists solely due to the secure social environment and the fact that Swedish men are less prone to flirting. Yes, precisely. Those guys over there are just so discreet, so incredibly shy, and so... Avoiding conflict at all costs, women compensate. Biology became a Scandinavian negotiation. So what's the result? The person who makes the first move isn't forced to, but rather the one who genuinely wants to. And that changes everything. In Scandinavia, you don't need to be the dominant alpha male who learned seduction from some sketchy channel. You simply need to be normal, gentle, tidy, and allow them to participate in the game as well. Is Northern Europe truly that advanced, or are we stuck with an old-fashioned emotional rulebook? The Swedish women test. In Scandinavia, there's a female superpower that can put many alpha males in the fetal position. They sense inauthentic confidence in merely 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds. Remember the guy who learned dominant posture on YouTube? Walks slow, glances, fiddles with his cheap watch pretending it's worth a fortune? In Sweden, that act lasts less than an Instagram story. They don't fall for it, nor do they buy the performance. They just give a subtle, internal smile like. Poor guy. Because for them, confidence isn't a performance. It's an energy, a vibe. It's how you exist in a space, not how you try to manipulate it. They're used to polite, balanced people who respect the waiter and understand boundaries, so any crumb of performative masculinity comes off as instant arrogance. And over there, arrogance is akin to kicking a dog. It's socially prohibited. They say it themselves. Confident, but not arrogant. Respect is attractive. Humility matters. Gentleness counts. And here comes the question that hurts the male ego. How many men are truly confident, and how many just learn to fake it? In Scandinavia, that difference shows up fast, and whoever tries to fake it gets burned even faster, because true confidence is the result of an organized inner life. No seduction course can imitate that. But the Latin man's suffering is far from over. Now for the ultimate blow, traditional chivalry. This is often where many men exclaim, "My goodness, is this country completely upside down?" Because what you consider kindness, they perceive as covert control. Yes, my friend, opening the door with that, "I am a 15th century European prince" vibe? Tacky. Insisting on paying to prove you're a man? Awkward. Grabbing her coat without being asked because a man protects? Forced, and they'll still think you're a sexist. And it's not because they hate kindness. It's because in their history, too much kindness always came with a package deal that nobody wants back. The man deciding everything, paying for everything, being in charge of everything. That's why when they ask, "Who pays for dinner?" the answer is surgical. Who extended the invitation? No drama, no mind games, no over-the-top Brazilian theatricality like, "Oh, you shouldn't have." And if you press too hard to pay, they see it as an attempt to control the situation. And in Sweden, control is as bad as spitting. Truly, what they desire is simple. Respect, naturalness, ease. You like her? Show it. You don't? Say it. You want to pay? Ask. Don't want to? Then just split the bill. No inflated ego. No need to prove your masculinity with your wallet or a show. And then comes the Nordic irony that closes the chapter with a polite slap in the face. In Scandinavia, the most masculine gesture is precisely the one that doesn't try to prove any masculinity at all. The mind your own business country. One thing that utterly short-circuits any Brazilian in Sweden is understanding two harsh realities. There, showing off is not tolerated, and rejections are like offering tea. And these two things are completely intertwined. Because in the realm of dim light and strong taxes, an invisible law rules all. No one should consider themselves superior. It's called Yanteloven, but in clear terms it means, don't think you're special. Don't try to stand out. Stay in your lane, and that shapes absolutely everything. How they dress, how they talk, how they work, how they flirt, and especially what they find attractive. In Brazil, if you stand out, you shine. In Sweden, if you stand out, you scare people. Nobody performs socially there. No one simply walks in and takes over the room. If you attempt to be the absolute center of attention, you immediately turn into the group's outsider. And women effortlessly grasp this principle. They appreciate ambition, yet they despise ostentation. They love confidence, but they instantly reject any trace of an "I'm the man" attitude. They value success, but can't stand those who flaunt it. In a society where everyone lives well, nobody tolerates a peacock. There's no room for performative testosterone or theatrical machismo. There, being calm, humble, and well-balanced is considered sexy. And then arises the question that hurts the male ego. How do you conquer someone in a culture where blending in is the sole way to truly distinguish oneself? Simple. The most interesting guy in the room is the one who doesn't seem to be trying to be the most interesting guy in the room. Once you grasp this code, you'll encounter the Swedish no, a second cultural shock. Brace yourself. They love direct men, but they say no almost all the time. It's like public Wi-Fi. It connects, but it won't open any pages. You approach politely, make eye contact, give a clean compliment, and they hand you a no, so gentle you almost want to thank them. Thanks for the premium rejection, come again. But here's the emotional, life-saving truth. In Sweden, the no has nothing to do with you. It's not a hint, not a game, not trauma, not revenge. It's culture. It's an emotional safety protocol. No one skips any stages. Nobody says yes in a rush. No one accepts an invitation impulsively on a bar sidewalk. While Brazilians live in turbo mode meet today, go out tomorrow, thinking about kids next month in Scandinavia, everything has its own pace. Observe, sense the energy, go slow, see if it fits. And the final blow to the male ego? They even reject guys they found interesting. Yes, I liked him, but I said no. Because there, a yes is rare, precious, reserved for when they're really sure. And certainty isn't born from a 5-minute chat. The most ironic part? They like that you approach them. They find the attitude attractive, the honesty refreshing. But when it's time to accept, they hold back. Every no isn't a failure. It's just a cultural reminder. Nobody there is in a hurry. And if one day you get a yes, my friend, you've passed through an emotional filter stricter than an Israeli airport. Ultimately, a question remains, shattering Latin illusions. Do they say no too often? Or are we just accustomed to a poorly given yes? The men don't approach. If there's one thing nobody tells you about the dating scene in Scandinavia, it's this. Foreigners only succeed because the local competition is playing in the minor leagues of seduction. And hold on, I'm not the one saying this. It's them, you see? Swedish, Danish, Norwegian women all repeating that same complaint with cold sincerity, having no reason to lie. The men here are too simple, closed off, kind of boring, uncreative. They don't know how to flirt. On paper, the typical Scandinavian guy is an absolute dream. He's educated, stable, calm, and respectful. In practice, so predictable you can guess the first date before he even opens his mouth. No spontaneity, no good vibe, none of that let's see what happens attitude. Everything's too calculated, too linear, excessively safe. This one detail completely extinguishes any romance. They never approach. To them, flirting is a legal risk, not a game. The man grows up constantly being told, don't cause trouble, don't intrude on personal space, don't start arguments, and don't make anyone uneasy. He's so serious, spontaneous approaches become historic. If a Swedish guy approaches a woman out of the blue, you mark it on your calendar. A social miracle has occurred. The scenario unfolds predictably. He only takes action when he's received a clear, bright green light, thoroughly evaluated all potential risks, and assured himself he won't face a rejection. Basically, when the woman has done 80% of the work, almost handing him her heart's key. The result? If it were up to them, nobody would ever meet. A date only happens when she's already decided everything. When she's practically shoved it in his face, like, if you know what I mean. And that's exactly where the foreigner enters the story. The bar is so low that when a Latin or American guy shows up with a smile, easy conversation, and a bit of initiative, he automatically becomes the most interesting person in the room. Not because he's better, but because compared to the emotional ice of Scandinavia, any spark turns into fireworks. A romantic date is virtually a TED talk on premium boredom. He invited me for a stroll, we enjoyed some coffee, and then casually had a beer together. A different restaurant? A movie? Flowers? Any minimal mood-setting attempt? It exists. In fiction. For many, there's a lack of spontaneity, creativity, and that human touch to break the monotony. And the most peculiar thing is that they say it while laughing, as if they've fully embraced a stable relationship with zero excitement. Now, put it all together. Men who utterly avoid flirting, a perpetual fear of bothering, an equality culture with Yanteloven dictating, "Don't presume," and a social standard where nobody wishes to stand out. The consequence is a legion of men, wonderfully functional yet profoundly unexpressive in the realm of affection and romance. So who takes charge? They do. Since the men don't approach, the women take on the active role. They start conversations, take the initiative, ask guys out, and keep the chat going. They only engage in this behavior because the environment is exceptionally secure. In an environment where men are taught not to overstep boundaries, women feel at ease initiating contact. But this very protective structure can also be quite dull. The guys are handsome, polite, respectful. They don't make a scene, they don't yell, they don't just disappear, but they also don't offer that exciting risk, that improvisation, that feeling that something might go wrong today, and that's what will make it fun. To many Scandinavian women, relationships are now a manual. It works but lacks excitement. Then enters the foreigner, more expressive, freer, accustomed to lively chat, loud laughter, spontaneity, questioning, and suggesting more than just walks and coffee. It's not that he's Prince Charming, he just doesn't seem like a social robot programmed to never bother anyone. And so, the question that keeps bothering us is quite simple and harsh. Are they falling in love with foreigners, or are they just fleeing from the most efficiently organized boredom on the planet? The money taboo. When the topic is money, the Brazilian imagination turns into a carnival. Oh, Swedish women like rich guys. Oh, in Europe, women only want stability. Oh, you have to earn a lot to get their attention, and then you arrive in Scandinavia, ask the question, and get a sociological kick to the face. He simply can't be without a home. Indeed, that was the genuine response from a Danish woman. He need not be a millionaire, CEO, investor, yacht owner, or Dubai influencer. The minimum standard is the most anticlimactic in the history of modern love. Be independent, pay your bills, eat out comfortably, and not live with mom at 40. What do they really want? A guy who has the basics figured out. A job, ambition, balance, not the prince of showing off. Not the dreamer with no money who spends all day saying, "One day I'm gonna make it big." Indeed, when inquired about dating a man relying on future success, akin to a SoundCloud rapper subsisting solely on empty promises, they giggled, and their no was so keen it could easily cleave through Finnish ice. In Scandinavia, money is not a tool for seduction, and you know why? Because there, no one is financially desperate. No one uses relationships as a social ladder. No one here is looking for someone to rescue them or to financially support them. The entire system already provides security, stability, and equality. Sometimes, a little too much. So money becomes exactly what it should be. A detail. Does it matter? Of course it matters. But it matters on an adult level, not on a yawn by my loves level. They want a guy who isn't lazy, who hasn't given up on life, who hasn't been stuck in the same place for 10 years. They want ambition, but ironically, they don't want any showing off at all. If you appear excessively flaunting your car, designer labels, watch, or status, they don't see a man of worth, but a clear red flag signaling emotional insecurity. And then comes the ultimate cultural shock. For them, stability is seen as sexy. Ostentation is quite tacky. The question that truly lingers, stirring a mild existential crisis in the audience, is simply this. Does money genuinely matter to them? Or are we just used to using money as an emotional crutch? The social context. This is where it all finally clicks into place. Because there's no point in trying to understand Swedish women by only looking at them. One must consider the nation that has profoundly influenced such conduct. And Sweden, my friend, is practically a social laboratory where everything works almost too well. It feels like science fiction to those from Brazil's emotional jungle. Let's start with safety. The women interviewed speak quite openly about things that would sound like pure fantasy in Brazil. Walking alone at night, saying no without fear, talking to strangers without tension, accepting a direct approach without thinking she'll become a statistic. In a country where harassment isn't routine, women relax, and when a woman relaxes, she chooses. She doesn't react defensively, filter through trauma, or see everything as a threat. She simply observes, then decides, and acts. Now add to that genuine gender equality, not merely progressive discourse. Over there, being a woman isn't about surviving, it's about existing. The government creates policies, laws, and protections that actually work. Women hold high posts, gain financial independence, social respect, and political space. This creates the perfect environment for them to pursue love with the same freedom. That's why they approach men. That's why they say no so casually. That's why they don't depend on money, or a savior, or validation. And this is precisely the point that truly confuses many foreigners. When one resides in an environment where no one treats them poorly, they don't develop that crucial emotional survival instinct. Swedish women aren't scared of having a conversation, nor are they afraid to reject, or hesitant to show interest. They're also not afraid to admit they desire equality, even when it comes to flirting. In Sweden, a woman doesn't need to fake fragility to be desired, and a man doesn't need to perform strength to be respected. It's all normal. Gender equality isn't just about politics, it's seen in their behavior, in how they talk, analyze, choose, reject, and move on without making a henage into a drama. And guess what that creates? An environment where relationships happen because two people want them to. Not due to one's neediness, nor the other's excessive power. Yet, half the world's relationships are driven by fear, reliance, insecurity, competition, distrust, or mere want. In Sweden, people embark on a date with the mindset of malatis, see if we're compatible, rather than yalitis, see if this will ruin my life. And here comes the key phrase that ties this chapter together nicely. The conduct of Swedish women doesn't stem from them being exceptional. It's about living in a place where they don't have to defend themselves from anything. The day Brazil gives women that same level of emotional and social security, you'll see Brazilian women doing everything you now think is a European thing. In the end, after all the talk of height, coldness, equality, caution, and that no that hurts the Latin ego, the question is simple. What do this bunch of hot blondes really want? Nothing you'd imagine. Surprise. No car, no money, no ripped body, no alpha male course. They truly desire a man who doesn't feel the need to prove anything. Calm, but not a pushover. Gentle, without being obsequious. Confident, yet not an arrogant jerk. An adult, functional, good-smelling. The basic that became a luxury. So, they're looking for a Brad Pitt or a Henry Cavill, are they? Buddy, if I resembled either of those guys, I'd certainly be living it up at the next carnival celebration. In Sweden, no one lives to impress. Everyone has stability and self-esteem. So seduction changes. It attracts those who ease life, not create tension. That's the Nordic charm. In a world where everyone tries to be extraordinary, being genuinely normal is what's sexy. But what do you think? Is being attractive in Sweden difficult? Or is it just difficult for those who never learned how to be normal? Oh, and before you swiftly depart, please type Sweden in the comments below to signal the algorithm that you're an excellent individual. And if you wish to continue this journey with me through the realm of flawless blondes and a hidden nightlife that no one speaks of, then go ahead and click on the video displayed on your screen. So go on, don't play coy. Thank you, and I'll catch you later.